the United States is currently executing the largest export of human capital in its history. While political attention focuses on the southern border's inbound traffic, the outbound flow has quietly reversed. According to the Mexican Interior Ministry, temporary resident visas for U.S. citizens have increased 70% since 2019. The State Department estimates 1.6 million Americans now reside in Mexico. This is not a lifestyle trend. It is an evacuation. The driver is a mathematical impossibility within the domestic U.S. economy. As of February 2026, the cost of living differential between New York City and Mexico City stands at 62%. The American middle class is not relocating for climate. They are relocating for solvency. The primary expulsion mechanism is the collapse of housing affordability. In 2019, a U.S. household earning $100,000 could afford 65% of available real estate inventory. By March 2025, that figure collapsed to 37%. Two-thirds of the U.S. housing market is now mathematically inaccessible to the median earner. For essential workers earning $75,000, teachers, nurses, first responders, market access dropped from 50% to 21%. This contraction forced the population into the rental market, triggering a liquidity trap. As of January 2026, the average rent for a three-bedroom unit in New York City is $8,300. Boston is $6,000. San Francisco is $5,400. A salary of $100,000 in these metros is no longer a middle-class income, it is a subsistence wage. The evacuation to Mexico is the market's rational response to a broken domestic ledger. The second expulsion mechanism is healthcare. The United States spends $12,900 per capita on healthcare annually, double the OECD average, yet 41% of U.S. adults hold medical debt. The system has become a net exporter of patients. The arbitrage opportunity is absolute. Consider a standard knee replacement. In the U.S., the procedure costs between $45,000 and $70,000. In Cabo San Lucas, utilizing U.S.-trained surgeons and FDA-approved titanium implants, the total cost is $14,000. This $56,000 differential represents an entire year of gross median income for the average American worker. This reality has birthed medical migration. It is distinct from medical tourism. Tourism implies a return trip. Migration implies permanence. Currently, 62,000 Americans have their Social Security payments direct deposited into Mexican financial institutions. They are not visiting, they are retiring into a healthcare system that does not require bankruptcy as a prerequisite for treatment. The U.S. healthcare model effectively subsidizes the Mexican economy by driving its own aging population south. However, the digital nomad thesis, that one can earn dollars and spend pesos indefinitely, is a temporary anomaly. The regulatory window is closing. First, the corporate crackdown. In 2025, 40% of U.S. companies enforced location-based pay adjustments, slashing salaries for remote workers. Simultaneously, 70% of U.S. tech firms began hiring LATAM engineers directly. Why pay an American $120,000 to work from Mexico City when a local senior engineer costs $40,000? The American expat is training their own replacement by proving the job can be done remotely. Second, the tax dragnet. The One Big Beautiful Bill of July 2025 introduced Section 4475, a 1% excise tax on remittance transfers. This creates a surveillance log of all cross-border capital flow. Furthermore, the Mexican Tax Authority, the SAT Servicio de Administración Tributaria, has begun enforcing the 183-day rule. If a foreigner spends more than 183 days in Mexico, they are tax residents. The days of the perpetual tourist doing visa runs are over. As of January 1, 2026, residency income requirements are indexed to inflation, not minimum wage. Immigration agents now conduct domicile verification checks. The regulatory walls are rising on both sides of the border. The influx of 1.6 million Americans has triggered a resource crisis in Mexico City, specifically regarding water. The Ktzamala system, which supplies the capital, reached critical lows in 2025 due to drought and mismanagement. However, the distribution of scarcity is determined by currency strength. While foreign enclaves in Roma and Condesa maintain water pressure, peripheral municipalities like Ecatepec face day zero conditions. Locals are forced to purchase water from private trucks, pipas, at predatory rates. A family in Ecatepec pays up to $70 monthly for water, a 500% markup over the municipal rate. This has created a hydromafia. Cartels now siphon an estimated 1 million liters of water daily from public reservoirs for black market resale. The American migrant, by paying premium rents in serviced apartments, effectively privatizes the water supply, leaving the local population to bid against organized crime for the dregs. This resource tension fueled the civil unrest of July 2025, where restaurants catering to foreigners were vandalized. The slogan, "Mexico is not your cheap weekend," reflects a structural breaking point. Rents in foreigner-heavy districts rose 30% in 24 months, pushing local families to the periphery where water is scarce and crime is high. This is not gentrification, it is displacement. The final phase of this evacuation is institutional capture. The individual American renter is being followed by U.S. institutional capital. Startups like La House and Flat MX, backed by U.S. venture capital, including funds linked to Jeff Bezos and other tech elites, are digitizing the Mexican real estate market. They are building the infrastructure to financialize housing in Mexico just as they did in the United States. BlackRock and other asset managers are financing build-to-rent communities in Baja and San Miguel de Allende. The trap is circular. The American leaves the U.S. to escape the corporate landlord, only to move to Mexico and pay rent to a U.S. private equity firm operating through a Mexican shell company. The endgame is the gray wave. By 2030, the U.S. demographic shift will be undeniable. 51% of Americans aged 55 to 66 have zero retirement savings. The Social Security Trust Fund is projected to deplete by 2033, triggering automatic benefit cuts. The U.S. government cannot support this aging population. The strategy, therefore, is export. The U.S. is not solving its cost of living crisis, it is offloading the casualties. Mexico City has already jumped from rank 79 to rank 33 in the global cost of living indices. As prices equalize, the arbitrage disappears. The American refugee is trading one crisis for another, moving from a high-cost failing system to a lower-cost system that is rapidly inflating to meet them. There is no escape from the math. There is only a temporary delay before the global ledger balances.